Hello, and welcome back to part 2 of this video. Today we will be coloring this piece in grayscale. We're starting on the background, adding those very light shades to the sky. From the background, we will be moving to work on the middle ground. The middle ground will be darker than the background, but will still remain relatively low contrast. And this is to keep it from drawing too much attention to itself. Moving on to her hair now, I'm doing it all in one pass so I can work wet into wet to keep the shading smooth. I came in here really quickly with the colorless blender to soften the edges of her highlights. And I'm working on the non-metallic parts of her outfit here, still working a little wet and wet. And here I'm taking a break from working on the figure to working on the background. If you find yourself needing a break from focusing on the main part of your painting, but you still have the urge to work, then that is a great time to move on to the background. It sort of gives your brain a break while still getting some work done. Here I've started on the first layer of her skirt, and while it is rather streaky, I am not too concerned about it at this point. I will be using more layers to shade and darken it, and those will smooth out the streakiness. I've moved on to her armor now, and I'm pre-wetting the area with my colorless blender, so when I apply this very light color underneath it. Moving on to her armor, I'm wetting the area with my colorless blender before applying the lightest shade. This will give me a soft edge around the highlight on her armor. I'm working on her armor in small sections. This lets me work wet into wet and keep a consistent appearance across all these small pieces. I'm applying one more slightly darker shade to her armor, and then I'm going to let this area dry while I go back to working on her skirt. Going back and forth here, I'm giving her skirt some time to dry while I work on her armor. I'm applying the final darkest shades to give it its metallic effect. And I'm not doing a great deal of heavy lifting here, mostly just tightening up spots that needed a little bit of extra work. And back to working on the background a little bit, or in this case the middle ground. You'll notice there's more shading here than there is in the very far background, but it's still subtle shading to keep from drawing too much attention to this area. And now I'm continuing to darken her skirt. When working with many layers in one area, it is important to factor in some drying time. If I had instead worked up numerous wet layers over each other in this area, I would have oversaturated her skirt and the ink would have bled out of the areas I wanted in. Working on the foreground now, these elements will be darker than the middle ground and the background, but continue to maintain a relatively low contrast. These crows are going to be dark like her skirt, and they're going to be built up in a similar fashion. It may be difficult to see on the video, but I'm adding some shading to her skin now. You will notice from the waist up there is a lot of contrast on the figure, and this helps draw attention to her. Meanwhile, the crows have quite a bit of contrast as well, if not as much as the figure, and this helps to build a triangular composition, while the strong vertical elements along the sides and the horizontal element along the bottom provides framing for the entire focal point. And now for the final touch-ups. A little darkening here, a little lightening there, and we will call this piece finished. As we come to the end, I want to thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, it helps me so much. And I hope to see you in all the videos to come.